We all ready?
I'm ready.
Steve. That's as close as we get to a yes. All right, we're back with another episode of Objectively Awful. I, of course, am Tim, and I'm joined by Erik.
Hello.
And Steve for the fourth consecutive time.
I promise I am not here against my will.
Blink twice. So, before we jump into it, I have some corrections from last episode.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
So, I did do some research after the fact.
About Jaws?
About Cruel Jaws.
Right, because we had talked about Cruel Jaws.
We weren't sure what it was.
was.
Cruel Jaws is an Italian ripoff of the Jaws movies. It has no affiliation. So the movie that we watched did, in fact, kill the franchise. They've never done another Jaws movie.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Okay, so today's episode is back to another current bad movie, bouncing back and forth in the timeline.
Yeah.
Tonight we watched Borderlands, which is a 2024 film.
Who was this year?
The most current of bad movies.
To give some context, this movie cost $115 million to make.
Wow.
I heard a rumor that marketing was only $30 million, which is a little low for a movie of that budget, but very possible. Its box office take was $24 million. So it made less than the marketing cost.
Yeah, that's a loss.
Now, that is not the biggest financial flop of all time.
Really?
As far as the internet can tell me, the biggest financial flop of all time was actually The Marvels, the Disney movie with Brie Larson.
Yeah, I didn't even bother to watch it.
So Marvels lost a massive amount of money. However, it has a cult following. It's sitting around a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh.
It was a massive failure financially, but people are like, this is an okay movie. This movie lost a lot of money and no one thinks is good. When it opened, and this is what drew our attention to it, it had a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, that's basically why we picked it.
It had a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes, and it was such a massive financial flop.
And the cast seems very famous.
Yeah.
Good,
Yeah,
successful.
Kate Blanchett, Jack Black, Jamie Lee Curtis,
Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart, yeah.
It is not a 0% anymore. It sits around 10%.
That's 10% of the population. That's wrong.
Whoa! Don't give anything away, Steve.
Actually, I think 10%. I think that's more fair than
Well,
zero.
sure, I get it. It was very colorful,
Colorful,
right?
yeah.
Okay, for context, we're about 2/3 of the way through this movie, and Eric's like, you know what's great about this movie? It's really colorful.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree.
Good use of
That
color. Maybe
the
it's your
10% on Rotten Tomatoes, it was for the color alone. I would even pop it up even as far as 20% because there was a couple
15
times.
to 20%.
Because there was a couple times I actually thought, because you voiced it, but I was actually thinking, this is really kind of pretty colors on the screen here. Like Teletubbies, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, Teletubbies. I give that
Draws your
10%.
Yeah, it's like a nice flower in a field.
Does anyone want to share with the listener what Borderlands is?
You guys should be better off to give the synopsis because I didn't play the video game. My entire knowledge of Borderlands video game is that it's this over-the-top violent video game.
I will form the skeleton and you put flesh on it, Tim.
Okay. Teamwork.
Borderlands, the film, is based off a video game series, which has been a successful franchise. Kind of a post-apocalyptic world, but it's on another planet. Very dark with all this gun technology. Dark in terms of the economy and the landscape, just very bleak and that sort of thing. But filled with humor, lots of jokes, lots of references, lots of goofing around, and then just ridiculous explosions and everything. And so I think the movie tried to lock onto that. I think that's where one of the main issues was with it. But basically, on this planet that's called Pandora, there is what's called a vault, which just has ancient alien technology and intelligence well beyond our own that's hidden somewhere on this planet. And so people have been ravaging this planet for years trying to look for this vault. That's kind of the big mystery of the show. Most of the characters are trying to find this vault and get access to its treasures, its secrets. But the one main character, she's really just there to look for someone else. Well, her story changes, but that's the general idea, right?
Yeah,
Is there anything
yeah.
I missed there?
No, as far as this movie specifically, apparently you need someone with alien blood to open this vault. And so a big corporation clones a girl to do that.
Yep.
So a group of misfits steal her away from the corporation, and they're on the run trying to open this vault before Jeff Bezos does.
Jeff Bezos, the evil corporation.
Space Bezos. Yeah.
Space Bezos.
Bezos. Jeff Bezos.
Which he's getting there.
He's getting there.
He's still behind Musk quite a bit.
Yeah. So, yes, as Steve already mentioned, this is a star-studded cast. It's a weird cast for the characters. I think they must have gotten Cate Blanchett as Lilith and then realized she's too old to be Lilith from the game, so they aged everybody up.
Oh,
so like everybody is old. Like the whole cast is in their 50s or 60s. Did people enjoy this movie?
I dozed off a couple times.
You mean people besides us?
10% of the population.
I didn't enjoy the movie besides the colors. I really enjoyed the colors. I was like a sci-fi movie, and so some of the gunplay and some of the technology behind the guns and just showing that with the CG was kind of neat, but a lot of it was also done poorly.
Yeah, we had made a comment early into the movie, like around that first chase scene, that the CGI was a combination of, yeah, this is really good, and this is not really good at all.
The more that I watched after you said that, though, I don't know if I ever actually saw any times when it was good. There are times when it's noticeably bad, and then there's times when it's passable.
Yeah.
But I don't know
It
if
felt
it was
like a
ever
video
good.
game. It felt like a video game.
Well, and it felt kind of like a video game from PS3 graphics, is the comment that I made.
Mm-hmm.
Video game graphics that are gorgeous nowadays, and I don't really think that it ever got to that level.
I disagree a little bit. There's certainly bad times.
Yes, there were moments where it was really bad, but the worst was the end when she becomes that
Fire Angel.
Yeah. Like that was, I could see myself watching that on the PS3 or PS4.
You left it a couple jokes, Steve.
I did, couple, but then after a while it just kind of started to, that Claptrap character.
I like Claptrap.
Like when he first gets introduced, his first 20-30 minutes, it was good, but then after it just starts to grate on you. And the funny thing is, I feel like, remember the droid character in Knights of the Old Republic? HK-47
like
or something.
What?
Yeah,
the assassin droid?
Yeah, meatbags, you know.
HK-47,
I think. I felt like there was that vibe of humor with the Claptrap character. A little different. He wasn't just this murderous whatever. But like this, I really don't like you, which was kind of funny.
I liked it.
At the start, but I felt like it was just the same thing over and over and over.
If you guys could pick what movies this was trying to be, or what movies came to mind while you were watching this.
The chase scene reminded me of Mad Max Fury Road. And I even made the statement. I said, I feel like Mad Max Fury Road was better in every way.
Yeah.
Mad Max Fury Road didn't lean heavy into CGI. Mad Max Fury Road leaned heavy into physical effects. It's like they wanted to do that, but they were using CGI. It's like that post-apocalyptic wasteland kind of feel, and the Psycho guys felt a lot like what were they? I can't remember what they're called.
Oh,
Three
yeah,
Road,
something
those-
boys, like Road Boys.
something
or,
Boys,
something, yeah. Okay, so definitely Mad Max vibes. I feel that.
Definitely Mad Max.
What
vibe.
else do you think this movie was trying
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy. Can anyone tell me what year those movies came out in?
I want to say Fury Road was like 2018, 2017, maybe even before that.
Both in 2015.
2015, okay. So like 9 years
14.
earlier.
9 years ago. Would you consider it a coincidence that this movie was in development for 9 years?
That's pretty good.
You guys hit it like right on the head.
Yeah.
This is not creative at all. They took the two things that people...
That were the big things of that day.
Before we started the movie, Steve said, did you do some research? Do you know why this movie's bad? Before we even watched it. And I was like, well, I know how it became bad. So I'm going to give you guys some facts, and then we can go from there.
This is where it's going to become interesting for me, because the movie certainly wasn't. No, but what I was going to say was, at the very end credits, it had directed by
Eli Roth.
Eli Roth.
And then it said Eli and it had another name, Joe Crombie.
Right.
I was like, okay, well, Eli Roth does a lot of horror movies. And then I looked up Joe Crombie. Doesn't exist. Like, that's not a real person.
Correct.
So this is why I said I think I'm going to find it interesting now, because one of the credits on there, not a real person.
What? Okay, so what? Before we go down that road,
Okay.
because you say Eli Roth horror movies,
Yeah.
tell me what horror movies, because that name now is starting to.
So
Just a
yes,
minute.
Eli Roth is famous for horror movies, which really flies in the face of this movie. Nothing feels like Eli Roth here.
Cabin Fever, Hostel Part 2, Planet Terror, Death Wish,
He did a turkey one recently.
Thanksgiving. Yeah, also horror.
I've never seen any of those movies.
His record is very hit and miss.
Yeah.
He'll do a very good horror movie, a garbage horror movie, good horror movie, garbage horror movie, but
Last Exorcism.
he's horror through and through.
Okay, yep.
He finished this movie in 2022. I don't mean finished filming. He was done editing it. It was ready to put out in 2022.
So for almost 2 years it sat.
It sat for 2 years in post-production
Why did they do that?
because the executive producers could not agree on whether they thought it was a good movie or not.
Whoever said it wasn't was the one they should have went with.
Well, it got to a point where they decided no, they needed to do reshoots. So they brought in a different director and filmed so much new content that they literally had to write a new score for the movie. So this
Why would they
isn't
have
the
to write a new
movie that Eli Roth made.
Right.
Okay.
This is not the movie he directed.
A score is just music for a movie.
That's right.
So why would they have to write a new score? I don't
They
know.
said the changes were so extensive that the music did not match the scenes anymore.
So did he make a horror movie?
I don't know.
They just injected like 85% jelly into it to make it funny?
Yeah, because there was one scene, two scenes, that you could get that horror tropey feel. When they first go down, and there's that acid lava,
Yep.
which
And they're in those hallways with the guys
In
coming
the
at them with
hallways with the
knives
guys
and
coming
stuff,
at them.
right?
Yeah, that's horror.
that kind of had a horror-ish feel.
If you had a different soundtrack and you ever felt like any of your characters were in danger whatsoever,
yeah,
you know, like
if you felt a
that
character
have-
could die in this movie, then it would definitely have felt scary.
Yes. So a lot of people have asked, the two of you as well, what dirt did they have on Kate Blanchett for her to make this movie?
Yeah. 'Cause
Even Jamie Lee Curtis, to a point. Like, Jamie Lee Curtis has done some goofy stuff, but like,
No.
she was in Scream Queens, but she
Yeah.
was awesome in Scream Queens.
Yes,
like, that
so
was
what I'll say about Jamie Lee Curtis is she is in a wide spectrum
Yeah.
of things, so it doesn't entirely surprise me that Jamie Lee Curtis is in this. It doesn't at all surprise me that Jack Black or Kevin Hart are in this. That all makes sense. But yeah, Kate Blanchett, that for me, that's like a total...
Oh, do you remember Bandits with Bruce Willis, Billy Bob Thornton,
Sort
and
of.
Kate Blanchett?
Okay, yes.
We watched that movie religiously in high school.
Okay,
There's
there is a bit
There's
of
a part where
something.
Billy Bob Thornton's asleep and he wakes himself up by going, beavers and ducks. It's so stupid. It has nothing to do with anything. Anyways,
Wow. Okay.
I just thought of that because of Kate Blanchett talking. But anyways, back on the actual topic.
Sure.
So remember, this movie was ready for theaters in 2022.
Okay, sure.
So this movie was filmed during COVID. So Kate Blanchett essentially came out and said, I had cabin fever. Somebody told me they could get me out of the house. So I was like, sure, I'll do your movie. There were very few movies being filmed during COVID. This was one of them. You wouldn't know because it came out years later, but this is one of the only movies that was actually filmed during COVID.
That's why the Psycho guys were all wearing masks.
That's right, to cover the 3M masks. That's
why
hilarious.
They picked to film this one.
We didn't look at the credits,
No.
but it lists 18 producers and executive producers.
Okay.
So what would be normal?
Like 3, 4.
Okay.
But remember when we start this movie, it's got 2K, it's got Gearbox,
Yeah.
it's got like...
2K and Gearbox would be the original video game makers. I mean, right?
Except that they needed to sign off on the movie.
Okay.
So there were groups of producers and executive producers
Too
from
many cooks in
each...
the kitchen.
Exactly. Okay. That's why it took 9 years. They did like a dozen different scripts by different people. They ran through half a dozen different directors. People would be like, yeah, I signed on. And then the executive producers would argue about the script until that director was like, okay, well, I can't waste another year of my life. I'm going to go on to another project. So many people walked out on this movie over a 9-year period. Eli Roth gets the job. Eli Roth sticks with the job. He makes a movie. And then those 18 executive producers can't agree on the quality of his movie. So they take it back. We've been joking in all 3 of our previous episodes about studio interference.
Absolutely. It
This
seems to be a common...
is like the pinnacle of studio interference. This is the best example of people meddling that I can think of. So that's how we got here. This movie, I would argue, is not worse at any given moment than any other movie out there.
No. The previous movies we watched, they were bad in unique ways. This was, on each part, probably just as good or better than any of the other movies. Just overall, it was so bland, so tropey. We did nothing new.
Yeah, I would kind of disagree with you on that. I would say that the lows in this movie never reach the lows of the other movies that we've watched.
Sure.
But there's no highs. It just is exactly the same level of boring the whole movie.
Yeah.
In at least the other movies that we watched, like Madam Web, there were moments where it was like, oh,
There could be a good movie in here.
somewhere someone was doing their job.
Yeah.
Here it's like, oh yeah, this has happened in every other movie you've seen before.
Sure. I would agree with that. The lows don't hit anywhere near the other movies. It's just this...
It's a plateau.
It's just, it's just a flat plane of this feels like every other action or comedy or...
But just less good.
Whatever.
Nothing to hold your interest.
Yeah.
I agree with that, and I would say that it's not even fun to make fun of. There's nothing bad enough that you can just be like, oh man, that's ridiculous. I'm actually enjoying myself because this is so terrible.
Yeah.
Whereas in some of the other parts, it was like...
Yeah.
That was so goofy that I'm...
Movie we watched so far, there's been something that's like jumps out as, oh man, this is so funny to make fun of, like the shark that just has this psychic sense of where the family is. Or that scene in Madam Web where he just knew he's been poisoned.
That's right.
He just had this... There's just these weird over-the-top...
How are you poisoning me?
How are you poisoning me? It's like, we watch this and it's like, you've been poisoned and you don't even realize you've been poisoned just by watching this movie. It's just so bland.
So, Steve, as the person between the 3 of us who like wakes up in a cold sweat every time he thinks about this podcast and watching a bad movie.
Didn't sleep last night at all.
I hope you're joking.
What is worse? Would you rather watch a nothing movie or would you rather watch a gloriously bad movie?
I never drifted off to sleep in the last 3 movies. I
There you go.
dozed twice on this
But if
one.
you didn't sleep last night, hey,
Yeah, you
no,
did.
No,
You did.
that's
I get it. You needed it. That's fair.
yeah.
Got to catch up. Yeah, I'd rather watch something that's really terrible that you can make fun of than something that's just so sour cream the whole way through.
Yeah. I mean, we normally save this for the end, where whether this is objectively awful or subjectively awful. I would say this is just objectively nothing. Like, it's
Awful
That's a
isn't
good
the right
point.
word.
It's not. It's not awful. It's just
Meh.
There's just nothing that pulls you to say, "Oh, that was really interesting," or "That was really." Other than the colors.
Some nice colors.
Yeah, honestly, there were moments that was just like, that could be a painting.
one of the things that sticks out of watching this movie is probably like my favorite part, which just sounds so dumb that like I have to pick something so minor. But when they're in the city and they're in disguise, they have holographic faces on that are just glow bright colors.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, those are so fun.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing that I have to say about this
There were
movie.
elements of the special effects that were like that. And that fireworks at the end, they were cool fireworks.
Yeah.
Both could have been done on a PS3, I'm sure.
And then you've got some claptrap lines that are...
There were some claptrap.
Kind of cute, kind of funny. But I just think with the rest of it...
First when Claptrap was introduced, me and you both laughed at some of the lines and whatever.
I like Jack Black's humor.
Yeah. But he was trying to carry the movie.
And he didn't have...
Oh.
It was just not possible.
His dialogue was not that good. He had a handful of jokes that I probably chuckled to.
Yeah.
But Eric knows this from our other podcast, Bullied Nostalgia, that as soon as you make a poop joke, I'm out. It's a hard stop
And he's
for
pooping
me.
out bullets.
And there was a poop joke in this movie. So it was like, if it wasn't already 0 stars from me, it was like, well, now we're into the negatives. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, and I'm so much lower brow than Tim, so I appreciate a good poop joke.
At that point, it was like,
Yeah, you're already lost and failed.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Ironically, in that scene, I had a thought before the poop. It was this weird thought where I was like, wait, I actually think that these actors are doing their best and that this is the post-production. This is the editor's fault. Kind of like what we were talking about with Eli Roth, and I hadn't realized at the time, is that hallway scene, I described it as a massacre because none of them brought guns.
Yeah.
But that could have had serious horror vibes and completely changed how that scene felt. Oh, remember when they're walking in the dark and those dudes have glow-in-the-dark
glowing,
masks?
yeah.
You couldn't tell what was going on. It was nothing. But that could have been powerful. And so I really do think this is not Cate Blanchett or Jamie Lee Curtis' best work. Might still be Kevin Hart's best work, but that's
no.
Kevin Hart is a good
No. So,
But honestly, I don't know if that's as much their fault as it is that this was just edited so blah.
I want to disagree with the Kevin Hart comment because I'm going to defend you, Kevin.
What's your favorite Kevin Hart movie?
So I really like Kevin Hart and the Jumanji movie.
Okay.
Like Backpack Guy.
Yeah,
Like
Fridge.
that whole shtick of a character that worked and it was funny. And I still, to this point, will throw out that comment once in a while. I'm Backpack Guy. There was nothing about his character in this movie that was memorable at all.
And he was trying to be the big, tough man, and that's never his role.
Yeah.
I bet you that's how they landed him for this movie. If
I
that
think
makes
that
sense.
might have been. I think he wanted to be somebody other than just comic relief. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh no, we got Jack Black for comedy relief. You can be the cool, tough guy. But he's not that guy, in my opinion.
No, he's not that. And it's too bad because, I mean, but he's a comedian. Like,
He is a comedian.
Like the first line of this movie, Tina's locked up. Someone opens the door.
and
He's got a Darth Vader helmet on, and he
can't
takes
breathe,
off. And he's
yeah.
like, "Oh, I can't breathe in this." And I was like, "Oh no, is that the level of humor we're dealing with in this movie?" Like,
It was a bad tone
start.
to set.
Yeah.
I was going to go on another tack of blaming different people for this movie.
Go
So
for it.
going back to all the producers or was it
Executive producer, yeah.
So, you mentioned Gearbox and 2K. I got lost. Where are they going? Why are they going places? What does this mean to me? Why is this important?
You got to go because the video game brings you there.
And there's some of that, like, sometimes when I'm playing a video game, I don't ask questions. I don't need backup behind why these guys are all wearing masks and they're all muscled up and trying to kill you, these psychos. There's people trying to kill you, so you kill them. That's fine. Maybe there's something different in a movie where I'm like, why? I don't get it.
Yeah.
But I felt like the 2K and the Gearbox guys were like, okay, you gotta have this building. Because
you
we
gotta
have
meet this girl with the clown makeup.
that Moxies or whatever, the 3 X's, that's in the game. And that character's in the game.
Yeah.
And I saw some other characters and references.
Yeah.
I get that they're in the game and you're trying to say, hey, this is Borderlands, the movie.
Buy our game.
But what was that movie done with Spider-Man and Marky Mark? It's Indiana Jones, but it's the new one.
Oh, Uncharted.
Uncharted.
Oh.
That was a very...
Spider-Man and
Spider-Man threw me off.
Sorry, Tom Holland.
Tom Holland.
Mark Wahlberg's in a Spider-Man movie?
Totally my fault. I'll take responsibility for that one. But Uncharted was a very good conversion from a video game to a
and it
movie.
didn't feel like the video game.
Because sure, there are character names that you reference and things like that. And yes, they're on a basically Indiana Jones kind of thing. But this felt like we're taking you on a tour through Borderlands, the video game. You have to go to all the same buildings, see the same enemies.
Yeah, because you guys immediately, that bus driver guy, like you guys said his name, Marcus. Yeah.
Marcus, and in the very beginning of the very first Borderlands game, you're literally riding in a van just like that, and Marcus is trying to sell guns on his little video screen. It almost followed the video game so much that it was to its detriment. Now you're just giving me a live action video game that I can't play, but it doesn't have any of the good storyline or plot or acting that a movie should have. So for me, I felt like those guys had too much sway in it.
Oh, 100,000,000%. But also I think that they were probably involved in the final cut, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And adding on to that, I've never played the video game, but I definitely got the vibe that these characters, Kevin Hart, Jack Black's robot, Lilith, Tina, Jamie Lee Curtis character, and that psycho character that was their friend. I made a joke about plot armor.
Yeah.
But in a good story, there's always a real threat or loss. I honestly, not knowing the video game, felt these people cannot die. And then at the end, you're like, oh, we've removed the plot armor and given them real plot armor. Like,
but they didn't remove the plot armor. They just put a new literal armor on top of the plot armor.
For people who have not seen the movie, one of them receives godlike powers.
Yeah.
And they literally put force fields around each of the other characters so they cannot be hurt. And so you never had any fear or worry for any of the characters through the whole movie, but then it became a parody of itself at the end when they literally could not be hurt.
Yeah. The reason it feels bland is that none of these characters actually feel at risk ever.
So that feeling of anxiety, I think you saw it with me, Erik. I'm not sure if you've ever seen it, Steve. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is one of my all-time favorite movies. It is amazing. And it's essentially about these two robbers in the Old West who think a marshal is chasing them. You never see the marshal. The whole movie is built on anxiety about what could be out there. You don't even need to show the thing. Like, that's peak filmmaking right there. Like, that's one of the best movies of all time, in my opinion. But it's one of those things where you need to have some amount of concern for the people in the movie. Not only are most of the characters in this movie not likable, I wouldn't care if they died. If you're part of the crew, you cannot die. The only person who dies is the one who's not part of the crew to show you how scary the guns are who are going to shoot at the crew.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's very dumb.
Just to add to that, I think they never gave any backstory to the characters. They just never made us like them or want to root for them, even understand what their motivations were. You mentioned Lilith's motivation, like within the first 15 minutes, you're like, I don't know why she's with them.
Yeah.
Like, why is she going along with this? She doesn't seem convinced, and later on she got convinced, but...
Yeah. And I wonder if, we talked a lot about it in Madam Web, ADR is often an indicator.
Oh, this is when they redub it over?
That's right. Yeah. Of heavy rewrites.
Yeah.
And Cate Blanchett has multiple narration points in this movie.
Yeah, you pointed that out in the beginning too. It felt like they were just...
she's narrating stuff.
You know, like, oh, and I ran into some other guys too, and I had to deal with them. And then I was on my way again. That had to have been a scene in the original cut, right? Like, why would you film that for such a throwaway...
Yeah.
But yes, tying back to your point about you don't feel like you're following a story or that they're explaining it well, you're just on this tour of locations and characters. I guess we didn't explain this when we summarized the movie. In it, they say they have Tina, who is the ultimate being who needs to open the gateway, and they need 3 keys. And they already have a key. And so then they're like, oh, we know where the second key is. And then they go and get it, and then they go to open the door, and I was like, what's going on? And Steve's like, well, Tina's the 3rd key. And I was like, okay, sure, maybe that's true. But also, they're only using 1 key.
Yeah, where's the other key that
So,
they had? Yeah.
why did they need
I thought
3
they put
keys?
the 1 key into the other key, didn't they?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe I wasn't
missed
paying
it.
attention.
Maybe we missed that.
Maybe that's my
Joseph.
fault.
Yeah, that's, I mean, if we fall asleep, we can't really blame them. I mean, we can blame them, but also that's kind of our fault.
Yeah, like, I'm gonna be completely honest. At the 2/3 mark, I stopped paying attention as much.
But that's also a video game. Or you need 3 keys. And you even made some comment with MacGuffin, like, oh, now here's the reason we got to go here. And because it felt like, well, we're just going from place to place because the movie wants to show us some places.
I went to see one of my favorite bands in Seattle this year. They're called Arrows in Action.
Wait. Okay, go. But we need to get back to this Joe Crombie fellow.
Oh, yes, Joe Crombie. Okay.
But let's talk about Arrows in Action.
So I go see Arrows in Action, and their opener is a girl named Sad Alex. I had never heard of her before. Awesome. Loved it. And so I've started listening to a bunch of her songs. She's a great artist. It's so funny. When we were trying to figure out what movies we would watch for the podcast, and Borderlands was a hot topic, I clicked on an article about how much everyone hated Borderlands. And in it, they said, as a matter of fact, someone has written a song about how bad Borderlands is, and all the lyrics are reviews that people have made for Borderlands. And so I click on this, and it's Sad Alex. She wrote this song that's just
from
like
people's actual reviews.
That's right. I feel like I was going to become a fan inevitably, no matter what. That all these different paths in life were going to take me to Sad Alex. But it's funny because in her song, one of the reviews is a line is something like, "Come back, Madam Web." That was the review that somebody wrote for Borderlands.
I'd rather watch Madam Web than watch this. Okay.
So I feel like at the end of the episode, we do need to tie it back and see, would we rather watch one or the other? But Crombie.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what we know. 1,
he's not a real person.
He's not a real person. 2, Eli Roth did make a movie. 3, Eli Roth denies that Joe Crombie is a pseudonym of his. That's all we know for sure.
So we don't know anything.
So Eli Roth didn't even want to have his name on this movie.
Oh, really?
And so the running theory is that they paid him to be the writer and director, but that this movie was so bad and he wanted nothing to do with it that they didn't want to give him sole writing credits. So they made up someone else
As a scapegoat.
as a scapegoat.
This is a blame name.
Poor Joe Crombie.
Well, this is the bad thing, and this is where you're going to get tied in. Unfortunately, there is a very good writer out there named Joe Abercrombie, and he has been linked to this movie, unfortunately. It's
because Joe Crombie?
Yes, because Joe Crombie is close to Joe Abercrombie. So this excellent British author is now being like, why did you write Borderlands? Like, this is awful.
I didn't.
I have nothing to do with it. That is a made-up person. He is linked. It is his profile on IMDb or these different...
awful.
And they're linking this
Poor
actual...
Joe Abercrombie, I'm sorry.
An
Lord
excellent
Grimdark, I am sorry.
Yeah. He's unfortunately getting some undue credit.
I hope Joe Abercrombie...
Steve's a big fan of Joe Abercrombie.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. So
Not Joe Crombie, though.
No, not Joe Crombie.
Well, just look at his body of fiction here, sir.
Yeah. Joe Abercrombie, anyway, they're making a show.
I've read a few of his books as well, and they're excellent.
Oh, okay. You should read his script for Borderlands.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tim, you were going to mention something here about the end on whether we'd watch
Okay.
something like this or something.
So, yes, put yourselves in the shoes of the people who are writing a review for this movie and they say, "Come back, Madam Web." Now, it's been a couple months since we've watched Madam Web, so it's not fresh in the mind. I don't know how we could get back in that mindset, but given a choice between two garbage movies, what is the lesser evil?
Okay, you're giving me the option between door A and door B, and I'm going to tell you door C. So in my mind, those are both equally bad. That's not different enough. But Miami Connection. I'm not telling you I want to watch that again.
I'll hear what I want to hear.
You often do. But no, what I'm telling you is a movie that is that bad.
Steve!
Listen. Steve, you listen here. A movie that is that bad, he's rocking back and forth, but new and unique to me, I would rather watch than this mediocre garbage.
As soon as you bring up Madam Web, I wanted to like that movie. I felt like there were moments where there was a good movie in there somewhere.
Left on the cutting room floor.
It just got left on the cutting room floor, but it felt like there is a...
This was like 8 movies that were left on the cutting room floor.
But you never found it in this.
No, I never found it in that. This is a mediocre movie at best. It's 8 mediocre movies at best. But Madam Web, I did feel like there were moments where it's like, there's something good in here, and I don't know what happened. I never felt that anywhere. The only redeeming thing about this movie, and I'll go back to Eric's comment, was the colors.
So last time I checked, this sits at about a 10% on Rotten Tomatoes. Madam Web sits at about an 18.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel like those are accurate scores?
Sure.
Yeah, I would watch Madam Web over this.
You guys feel like they're purposely prepping Craven for us? I feel like they might be getting that ready for us.
For our podcast?
For our podcast, yeah. They need another critically low movie, because I'm pretty sure that's coming out there.
So Craven came out this week. From what I've heard, is not as bad as Madam Web.
Oh, okay.
But financially, it's set to do worse.
I think people already have their minds made up. We're done with this.
I have my mind set up.
It's a 15% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
It split the difference.
Well, that's better than what Madam Web opened to. Borderlands started at 0, made it to 10. I think Madam Web was at 8, made it to 18. So that'll get up to like 25.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Probably will.
We should keep our thumb on the pulse of Craven and see where that goes, Steve.
I'm hesitant.
Craven was not even a superhero I was mildly interested in.
I disagree. That's all I want from the next Spider-Man movie. I just want a street-level Spider-Man with Craven hunting him. The Wish made everyone forget him. He's not an intergalactic hero. He's just your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Craven the Hunter. That's like the perfect pairing.
But Spider-Man's not in it, right?
No, but Craven is a Spider-Man villain.
Yeah, but Spider-Man's not in the Craven movie.
No.
So you're not getting that.
No, I know. That's what I'm telling you. You said I never wanted any of this.
Yeah.
I did want something,
sure.
and Sony spit in my face and said, how about this instead?
Screw you, because it was Marvel that came up with that idea.
If rumors are to be believed, that's why there hasn't been another Spider-Man movie. Marvel wants a street-level, down-to-earth Spider-Man movie, a la Craven hunting type of thing. But Sony saw dollar signs from the last Spider-Man movie that was intergalactic, multiple Spider-Mans from different realities. They're like, we have to go big. Marvel wants to go small. They can't agree.
Well, before we close off, though,
yeah,
we were told to ask a specific question, but I'm only asking it just to get your reaction. I have zero interest in this, but we're talking about terrible movies.
You're doing it, eh?
I've seen this one.
Is Steve proposing an episode for this
No,
podcast?
I'm not. No, I'm not. No.
See?
I was told.
This is your fault.
No, I was told.
I warned you that I will hear what I want to hear.
I was told
Look
to
at his
ask.
little heart going now.
Oh, sorry.
My heart grew two sizes.
He has
that
more
day.
hope from this little tidbit of conversation than that whole Borderlands
I was
movie.
going to keep
That's
it.
true. I've been conserving my energy for this moment.
I knew about it too, but I was going to keep it to myself and put it in my will.
No, I
Just bring it up once I'm dead.
No, I needed to bring it up because I was told. I won't tell you who asked.
I think he'll figure it out.
I think you'll know as soon as I ask. But there was a request of what should be done the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Oh my goodness. My brother.
Yeah, you're right.
So I watched the Star Wars Holiday Special back about 15 years ago, and I vowed I will never even talk about this again alone.
Well, you broke that vow
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
I also do not want to do that, and I will tell you why. Because my brother made me watch it today.
Oh no!
That's how I knew it was my brother.
Okay. You're not as sleuthy as I thought.
Why? How did you get trapped into that madness? Because you've seen it before.
No. I mean, scenes or clips
Okay.
or whatever.
Okay, I watched it in
I
its entirety.
never
It was
watched-
awful.
I will give you this, though. I don't know if you remember 15 years back. Have you seen?
Don't even bother. Don't
not-
even Google it.
I'm not interested.
The 5-minute animated cartoon,
Droids.
Boba Fett's first appearance, is way better than I expected it to be. Like, legit, I may watch that 5-minute cartoon again. The world that they go to is more interesting than any world we've gone to in any Star Wars movie. The world is like gelatinous. So like the heavy things sink. The art style is strange, but captures the characters.
A la
Glowing
early
endorsement
80s.
for that 5 minutes. The rest of it is absolute garbage.
It is a variety show using Star Wars characters.
I've heard of it.
My
It's
brother was enjoying it so much, he was crying. He was laughing so hard. And it made me angry.
I
I was like, John, this is not funny, actually. And that just made him laugh more. And so I don't think he was actually laughing at the movie. I think he was laughing
At the
that
pain
he
it
had
put-
been able to get Emily and I to watch it with him. That's what
Yeah.
he thought was so
Yeah,
fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's an absolute
It was a mind
garbage.
game for him.
So it's Christmas time. That wasn't given away in our episode. I did think about that. Like when John was like, we should watch the Star Wars Holiday Special. I was like, you know what? That would make for a really good podcast episode. Then I ended up watching it and I was like, I have no interest in watching this again.
He pitched it to us, but my reaction was, no, I watched that thing before. I will never watch that again.
Yeah, it's too long. Like, you were talking about how there's nothing to make fun of in this movie. There's stuff to make fun of in that.
Yeah.
If you could do like a Cole's Notes, condense it down to 10 minutes, you could have some good laughs. But everything that you make fun of then goes on for another 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
The next movie that I did a review of, I wouldn't want it to be a new one. I'd want to go to an old one that I've never seen.
We're kind of doing that pattern. We're doing old movie, old movie, new movie. Steve, you in for an old movie?
Like how old?
Not this year.
No, yeah.
We would have to come up with another rule. Jaws was a movie that was so bad it ended a franchise. I was thinking about an idea, something like a movie that failed financially, you know, maybe people still enjoy it.
See, that sort of thing interests me.
Or a movie that did super well financially, but everyone hates. That type of dichotomy, what makes a movie bad?
I really like, and I'm not proposing this, but something in the vein. I really, really like Shawshank Redemption. And it was just okay, because everybody went to Forrest Gump.
Really? Because Shawshank Redemption was a great movie.
Uh-huh. And I thought it was wonderful, but it didn't do well.
You mean financially, it was just okay.
Correct.
Okay.
And critical acclaim. It came out at the same time as Forrest Gump. So Forrest Gump got all the accolades, got all
Sure.
the Oscars. And it was largely forgotten, but it's kind of a cult classic where a lot of people like it. I would like to see something like that that sort of got eclipsed by something else, but that's
Okay.
really good.
But then it's not objectively awful.
No, I know. But then we get to watch a good show, too.
I see what you're
It's
doing.
objectively awful that this movie didn't get better attention.
Yeah, hey, that's a good way.
So it sounds like Steve needs a palate cleanser after this movie, and he wants to do another movie so that he can forget about what Borderlands was like. That's my takeaway. Is that what you're hearing, Eric?
No.
That's your takeaway.
I'm not playing that game with you, too.
I'm keeping
Are
my
you
special...
defending Steve's honor
I
or
am
something?
keeping my special guest status. That's all I'm doing.
I know it hurts Steve's heart to hear this, but I agree, Eric. If I was going to tier the movies that we watched so far, I would most likely want to watch A Miami Connection, then Jaws, then Madam Web.
I feel exactly the same
This
way.
is bottom of the barrel. I would never revisit a movie like
Because
this.
it's just too mediocre. Yeah.
Borderlands was by far the boringest watch. But Miami Connection was painful, guys.
And that's fine. We're
painful.
supposed to disagree. If we all agreed on everything,
hurt.
there'd be no point to having us all here.
That's why I didn't sleep through it. It was too much pain.
I don't know.
This anesthetized you.
Yeah, it did. But some of that pain is like, oh yeah, I'm getting stronger. You know, like exercise is pain, right?
We could do an infamously bad movie, like we could do like a Troll 2. Has anyone seen Troll 2?
No.
I never saw Troll 1.
There is no Troll 1.
What? What?
Uh-huh. Are you in, Steve? Did I whet the right appetite with that?
As long as you tell me past March, then I'm in.
Okay.
Actually, it might be April, depending on...
Yeah, I know you got lots of work and life and stuff. Steve's coming back for Troll 2 when Eric's done police school.
Steve may be here as a special guest for Troll 2.
Excellent. It's in the bag. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for hanging out, you guys.
Thank you.